Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
President John Mahama's full speech at the UN General Assembly has left so many Ghanaians and people around the world speechless, without leaving Kwesi Pratt out, who later joined assessing his speech and calling it one of the most brilliant ones he has ever witnessed. And we bring you the full assessment here on PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and a powerful political updates around the world. Stay tuned as we listen to what he said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, a few of the comments of those who are listening to us. This one says, the world is bigger than 5. Why not the remaining countries break away from those 5 countries and form new world unions? Thank you. There's also, this one says, good morning, Senator. My President John Mahama made me proud, not only as Ghanaian, but as an African. He said what was supposed to be said to the face of a certain individual in the UN hall boldly without missing words. Proudly spoke in a Ghanaian and African English without pretending to slang and be like them. Does the monstrous Zionists and their aid man have a different blood? Does the monstrous Zionists and their aid man have a different blood color running in their veins? God bless Mahama. Okay, I could legendary Nesta Mali, who God bless, no one cares. Bibi send that from Osoko. Bibi, thank you. This one says, I'm Mutala, watching you live from, you didn't add the place. Indeed, President Mahama's, okay, Mutala just, Mutala pa. Mutala deleted it. Mutala, good morning to you. Next says, let us be truthful. Can one go to heaven without passing through Jesus Christ and his ways? Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, by the grace of God, gave us independence, and he has told us what to do. History and current happenings have proved him right, and he's still being justified in his grave. The great speeches won't change anything unless we listen and start to do whatever he told us to do to consolidate our independence and attain our economic freedom and its consolidation. Our leaders and family must stop living in Europe to free us, and we must listen to Nkrumah to be careful of our own people who make the new forms of colonialism easier. Sneth said that. Thank you very much for that comment. And says, good morning. Apart from Gbadema, furnish me with the other 3 names of personality who stood on the podium with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah for the deliberation of the independence speeches at the Polo Grounds. Populampo said that. Goka Frank says, good morning. Uncle Pratt, blessing you with Psalm 91:1 to end for this program. May God bless you. Goka Frank sent that from Bato. There's more. This one is from Alaji Lawal in Asamankese, who says, the issue in the Gaza for me cannot be described as war. It's simply an aggression, genocide, and annexation of Palestinian lands by Israel. Why is the world so silent on this wickedness and atrocity? Our president was therefore right in reminding the UN and the world that the aggression must end. There's this one from Kofi in Sao in Oti region. Says, good morning. I am inviting Ghanaians so that we rise up to agitate for the change of the name of, he says, the Kotoka International Airport to Kwame Nkrumah International Airport. Did Kwame Nkrumah build this airport? Why then should we reward somebody who overthrew him with it? The name must change. That is, thank you for that comment. And also Francis Gordon says, leaders in the world should put their country first in everything they do. Africa's place in today's world cannot be overlooked because of our contributions to the development of the world has been since the beginning of humanity. It was a good call for African leaders to tell the world, and for that matter, United Nations, to reconsider and adjust the place and value of Africa's contribution to the world's development. Let us put our countries first in everything that we do. Thank you, Francis. Gabriel Ni Aye says, Excellency John Dramani Mahama's speech at the UN General Assembly's is unprecedented. That speech alone prompted Donald Trump to remove the visa restriction he imposed on Ghanaians. Apart from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana has never had a president like John Dramani Mahama. If I were to rate Ghana's presidents from 1957 to 2025, I will place Mahama first among many presidents in the history of Ghana and the whole of Africa. There's Komla Genya, who says NPP has always been consistently inconsistent. They lack integrity, values, and the fear of God. Everything that matters to them is using every means, no matter how crooked, to capture power and loot the nation. That's all. That's Komla Genya. Samola Jika is also joining us. Says, good morning. I hope the presidential hopefuls of various political parties are monitoring the standard JDM has set and is setting. We don't want anything below that. That's Samuel Ajika. Mazi Agenti, I hope I got that name right. Says, Hamza Eswini, wow, you're indeed a man. When I saw the post, I laughed like you did. Kudos, an African soldier. Alaji Aruna Neshama says, and I want to know the difference between, okay, and that's another matter. There's also Bedu Kwame who will read to conclude and come to Mr. Pratt for his views on this. Bedu Kwame says that's why we have to amend the constitution to keep Mahama. We sincerely love our nation, Ghana, so that we can leave a good legacy to our children. No deep in my heart that the next president after John Mahama, even if he's more intelligent, will not have the patriotism, the commitment, the enthusiasm, the motivation, the understanding, and the know-how all put together of how to rule Ghana. If you allow ourselves to be dissuaded by, okay, thank you very much, Bedu Kwame, who sent that. If you're just joining us, this is a matter of all talk shows, Alaji and Alaji. We'll conclude our discussion, assessment of President John Mahama's speech with Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., who will share with us his thoughts. He's the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana.
Well, this is one of the most brilliant speeches that I've ever heard delivered in the UN General Assembly meeting. Outstanding. You know, and the composture was also correct. So you would notice that after the speech, it's become a major item for discussion, not just in Ghana, but throughout Africa and in other parts of the world. Now, the distinguishing thing about this speech is that it was bold, you understand? It was very, very bold, because it took positions that other leaders are unable to take because of the fear of reprisal, of punishment, and so on, especially by the United States of America. Now, I think it's also important to understand that His Excellency John, excuse me, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, it's okay now, is not just the President of Ghana. He's also what they call the AU champion on reparations. So now when he speaks in international fora, he speaks for Ghana, and then he speaks for the AU as its champion on reparations. Now, one of the things that he said in this speech, which is most significant, is his stance that Israel would not be able to impose peace in the Middle East through war. And that the only way to do that is to ensure that the two-state solution is implemented. And the two-state solution envisages the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with full guarantees for its security. And he made that point. Now, that's a point that Western leaders are just beginning to realize, which has led to a flood of recognitions of the state of Palestine, you know. But he made that point, and he made it very, very strongly. He also made the point that the absence of President Mahmoud Abbas and his delegation must be exceedingly worrying for all leaders of the world, and that's a fact. You know, for the United Nations headquarters to be situated in New York, the U.S. had to make guarantees that it would not impede participation in the UN's activities and so on. That pledge was trampled under the feet of Trump easily when it refused to allow President Mahmoud Abbas and his delegation into New York. You know, and there's some interesting history. Indeed, the excellent relations between Ghana and Cuba arises out of the treatment of President Fidel Castro, I think in 1960 or 1959, when he went to address the United Nations General Assembly, and no hotel in New York was prepared to give him accommodation. And as a result, he and his delegation went to the Hotel Teresa. You know, he stayed in the Hotel Teresa, and Nkrumah visited him in the Hotel Teresa, and that began, you know, what has become an excellent relationship between Ghana and Cuba. So there have been all kinds of cases. In fact, there is one other precedent that the Trump administration is threatening to expel from New York because he took part in the pro-Palestinian demonstration in New York, which took place around, you know. But President Mahama's speech was undoubtedly a very significant speech, very powerful, very bold, and so on. Then he touched on the question of reparations. And I think reparation is one of the issues which is most misunderstood. Reparation is not asking for compensation. Reparation is not asking for money. Reparation is about resetting the world, and he made that point very clear in his speech. He said, we want to reset the world. And in fact, the first institution in the world which needs resetting is the United Nations. You know, at the time that the UN was established, there were only 3 African countries which were members of the UN. The UN was dominated largely by the colonial powers, you know, and the capitalist states and so on. So they structured the United Nations which sought to protect their interests and not the interests of the colonists then and so on. And the UN itself established institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, you know, the World Trade Organization and so on, without African participation. And this explains why, even though Africa has a population of 1.4 billion people, Africa has no voice on the UN Security Council. You know, so the agenda to reset, you know, the UN and its institutions is very, very important. Now, there are some who say that, oh, the slave trade happened so many years ago and so on, and perhaps we should forget it. The slave trade is continuing up to today. The slave trade continues up to today. What happened? The slave trade was an attempt by the Western capitalist states to accumulate surplus value, which then became the basis for its development. The extraction of surplus value continues. We are still the hewers of wood and drawers of water for the advanced capitalist states. You understand? So the main objective of the slave trade, which is the accumulation of surplus value, is continuing, and it has to stop somehow. Then come to think of it, the atrocities which were committed against the African people, the atrocities. And the world is compensating others who suffered less than the African people. You talk about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb explosions. I mean, the victims have received reparation of some sort. You talk about the Holocaust against the Jews. The victims have received reparation of some sort. Why not the African people? Look, you go to Congo, and the whole of the Congo was the personal property of the Belgian king at the time. And that was the time that rubber had become so very important in the world. So this Belgian king, King Leopold, required the Congolese people to supply him with rubber. So everybody had a quota to supply. If you fail to supply your quota, they cut off one arm. The next time, if you fail to supply your quota, they cut the other arm. This is how Belgian colonialism operated in Africa. I mean, incredible cruelty. I mean, it was so atrocious and so on. And there are many other stories. There's a story which was told by President John Dramani Mahama himself. The story of the South African woman who had who had pronounced backside, And these white guys came and saw this woman with this pronounced backside and decided to capture her as an animal and take her to Europe. So they actually put her in a glass cage and exhibited her human being for people to go and see. And then they jeered at her, they booed at her, they did all kinds of things to her. And this woman eventually committed suicide. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine? There is the case of the woman from Elmina, who had a cat, a cat scratch on her arm, and decided to apply African medicine. Yeah? She was captured by the Portuguese. She was tried in the castle. The matter was referred to Portugal. She was tried in Portugal and convicted for witchcraft. Nobody knows what happened to the woman after today. This is a woman from Elmina. So, this is how they treated us. Look, the historical record, and it depends on how you do the calculation. In fact, those who take the records of the slave ships, the capacity of the ships to carry human beings, how many human beings are recorded to have been carried on the ship and so on, if they do that calculation, they come to the conclusion that 80 million people were shipped out of Africa. 80 million people were shipped out of Africa into slavery. 80 million. When can we recover from this? Other calculations indicate that 12.6 million people were shipped out of Africa. Even 1 million people. And the people who were shipped, they were not the old, they were not the sick, they were not the infirm and so on. They were the strongest, because which slave trader is going to carry sick people? They were the architects, they were the doctors and so on. They were shipped out of our continent. I think it's about time for us to examine the consequences of this on us today and to take measures to block the continued dehumanization of the African people and the exploitation of the African people. Today, many, if not all, French-speaking African countries, they have to deposit all of their foreign reserves in the Central Bank of France. And then they go to France to borrow money. In effect, what they are doing is that they are borrowing their own money and they are paying interest on their money. So reparation is not just for the transatlantic slave trade. It is for that. It's also for classical colonialism, and it's also for neocolonialism. There is no institution in the West, viable institution in the West, whose wealth did not come from slavery. The church, take the church. The church was an active participant in the transatlantic slave trade. The Catholic Church was an active participant in the transatlantic slave trade and benefited tremendously. Today, the Catholic Church is one of the richest institutions in the world. How come? Because it profited from slavery. Okay? You take a bank like Barclays Bank. Barclays was established by the Barclay brothers. The Barclay brothers were slave traders. It is the money they made out of slavery which they invested in establishing that bank and so on. So take any Western institution. I think the time has come for justice for the African and the Caribbean people. The time has come for us as Ghanaians, as Africans, and as citizens of the world to demand justice for those who were wronged. And that is us and our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. And I'm so happy that President John Dramani Mahama raised these issues before the world and insisted that we are not going to be beggars, but we are going to continue the struggle for restitution. We are going to continue the struggle for resetting the world, and we will continue the struggle for reparations for the African and Caribbean people. It was a brilliant speech. I mean, this is the type of speech that one used to hear from people like, Robert Mugabe, from people like Kwame Nkrumah, from people like Sekou Touré, Modibo Keita, and Gaddafi, So he has joined the league of exceptional African leaders, and I think that we need to recognize that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me do a few more comments, and then we'll move on to the very next discussion. If you just join us, we are having our very first discussion was on the speech delivered by President John Dramani Mahama at the UN General Assembly. And this is what you have been saying after listening to the discussion. This is Ben from Aplau, who says, Pan-African TV, let the government know if they... Okay, he is talking about oral. Thank you very much for that comment. This one says, Pan-African TV, I'm Mutala watching you live from... Okay, Mutala sent the message back again. Mutala, good morning to you. I think I read the message effectively. This one says, good morning to my favorite Uncle Kwesi, and to tell the panelists a very beautiful morning to them. Please, Anna. Okay, he says he wants one of the reparation books. Yes. You can get it at Freedom Bookshop. Yes. Okay. There's also this one from, says, good morning, I'm Kucho. My concern is about fighting Galamsey. The president and some statesmen are serious about it, but the so-called MMDCs are the problem. This coming from you. Thank you very much. This one says, good morning. Great submission by Uncle Pratt. History will always remember a patriot and a Pan-Africanist. This one says, I agree that neocolonialism perpetuates systemic inequalities through economic, political, and cultural means, making reparative justice crucial for acknowledging historical injustices and fostering a more equitable future. The Caribbean community has developed a 10-point plan for reparatory justice, which includes demands for compensation, apologies, and cultural restitution from colonial powers. The African Union has declared 2025 as the year of justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations, highlighting the need for redress and healing. The return of looted cultural artifacts to their rightful owners in African nations is a vital aspect of reparatory justice. Promoting cultural restoration and healing. Implementing reparative justice requires a nuanced understanding of the complex historical and contemporary dynamics of colonialism and neocolonialism. Collaboration between government, civil society organizations, and affected communities like Ghana is crucial for developing effective reparative justice. Reparative justice has the potential to promote global solidarity and foster dialogue between nations, contributing to a more just and equitable world. Okay. Who says, good morning. As a matter of fact, I am so proud to be a Ghanaian after hearing my president speak boldly at the General Assembly. I also like you to help congratulate the new Chief Justice, Paul Bafoboni, on his new role. I hope he will not behave like the former Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu. It is not yet confirmed. The processes are now being gone through. And this one, as for the Galamsey issue, we know this NDC government is trying every possible avenue, and the last resort may be to declare state of emergency. Thank you very much for that. Well, let's conclude on this topic with Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr.'s thoughts.
Well, I think if you read the 1992 Constitution, the right to demonstrate is completely unfettered. Nothing, according to the Constitution, should stop anybody or any people from protesting, from demonstrating. Indeed, the fetters to the right to demonstrate, as enshrined in the Constitution, only come in the public order law. And I've always maintained that the public order law is an affront to the 1992 Constitution. But we need to go to court to get a decision on that. So, there's nothing wrong with people demonstrating. In fact, you can wake up in the morning and decide that there was too much sugar in your cup of tea and jump on a demonstration. Legitimate. You can wake up in the morning and decide that the road on which you rode to your office was too nice and too smooth. You don't want that. You want potholes in your road. You're entitled to demonstrate. There's no problem with that. Okay. So I'm not going to criticize anybody for organizing a demonstration. But this demonstration revealed something very, very interesting. Exceedingly interesting. There were people in this demonstration holding placards and didn't know what was on the placard. The placards they were holding, they didn't know what was on the placard. Some did not understand what had been written on the placard. You understand? And then, worst of all, I mean, this is the classic. People who were actually in the demonstration who did not know that they were demonstrating. I mean, this is a classic. They had placards on the demonstration said, they told us that we should come, we are going somewhere to go and look for, alternative sleeping places and so on. Yeah, they didn't know that they were demonstrating. I mean, this is incredible. Wow! So, what is this? I mean, and then there was another batch of people who were interviewed who actually said that, as for them, they joined the demonstration because they had been promised that if the NPP should win power, it would legalize the smoking of marijuana.
Yeah.
So that's why there was the demonstration. Okay? Meanwhile, the organizers of the demonstration claimed that they were protesting against harassment of their leaders. So, which is which? The organizers had a different objective, the demonstrators had a different objectives, and so mania like that. So, this is a very, very interesting demonstration. And there's also something very significant. You see, over the last 8 years, the Flagstaff House has been declared a no-go area for demonstrators. It was declared a security zone. These demonstrators had access to the Flagstaff House. They went and presented their petition in the Flagstaff House. Something has changed, hasn't it? Something very significant had happened. The Flagstaff House is no longer barred for demonstrations. Demonstrators can go there and present their petitions as well. And there was something even nicer. I mean, the chief of staff at the office of the vice president actually received the demonstration and engaged in a conversation with the leaders of the demonstration. He told them, we have received your demonstration, and so on, made the points and so on. So beautiful. So very beautiful. So in the end, what did this demonstration do? In the end, this demonstration demonstrated, seriously, that the people in authority are ready and are guaranteeing the right to demonstrate free expression. In the end, it showed the difference between this government and the previous government when it comes to demonstrating and so on. And it's very interesting. In any case, I was just wondering, the leaders who are being harassed, who are we talking about? Because I was expecting the demonstrators to come and say, Mujib has been harassed. He hasn't done anything wrong. This is Mujib, he's been harassed. So we are protesting that you should stop harassing people like Mujib. There was nothing like that. There was just a blanket statement about leaders being harassed. And I find something very curious. There were two persons who were connected to a threat to kill the president, assassinate the president, and behead his wife.
Yes.
And put their bodies in cocoa sacks. Now these two persons, after they have been granted bail, went to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia And Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia made a speech about harassment of political opponents and so on. Are these the people that you were demonstrating? Mujib, I'm not sure. Are these the people that you were demonstrating about? Because in any country, if you threaten to assassinate the president, you'll be arrested. In any country, if you threaten to behead the wife of a president and keep their bodies in cocoa sacks. And why cocoa sacks? You understand? Why cocoa sacks? What's this fixation with cocoa sacks and so on? So, I don't know what this demonstration was meant to achieve. To allow people to threaten the president with assassination. What is this? Everybody who has been arrested, everybody, all of them, they were granted bail. In fact, most of them have not even been formally charged yet, and so on. So what is the problem? What are they demonstrating about? Did you take part in the demonstration?
Oh, he was with them. But you were there with them in spirit. Of course. Of course.
So what is the demonstration about? Huh? I don't understand. I'm still struggling to understand what this demonstration was about. Look, and to be honest with you, some of those who have been arrested are friends of ours. I mean, some of them are my friends. I mean, I know some of them are Solo's friends and so on. I mean, somebody like Mustafa, you know, Hamid, has been my friend for many years, from the 70s, you know, and so on. My friend for more than 30-something years. Yes, I know him so very well. Of course, when he became a big man, I saw him only twice, but that doesn't matter. But I've known Mustafa for many, many years and so on. I wish him well. I don't want Mustafa to go to jail. You know, if there was anything I could do in order to help him put up a good defense and so on, I'm ready to do it. As a friend, I owe him a duty. You understand? And there are many of them. But the point is that what was this demonstration meant to achieve? I don't understand. This demonstration, at the end of it, what was it meant to achieve? And NPP, tell us, who is being harassed? Just mention 2 names of people who are being harassed. Well, anyway.
And so look, correct me if I'm...
Thank you for watching PENDREAM TV. And if you have really enjoyed this episode of Kwesi Pratt's assessment, please do drop your comments at the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to PENDREAM TV for more information on political news and updates. Thank you.
Dedi kama amena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.